Welcome to This Explainer. You know, while everybody has been hyper-focused on the next big GPU drops or the highly anticipated next-gen consoles, there's been this completely silent crisis brewing in the background. It's a situation that's secretly making your next computer upgrade astronomically expensive, and it is happening right under our noses. We're calling it RAMageddon. Today, we're going to unpack exactly why standard computer memory has suddenly become an absolute luxury item, and we'll dig into the massive antitrust lawsuit aiming to uncover the truth.
Let's kick things off with a number that is honestly just hard to wrap your head around. 700%. Yeah, that's exactly how much consumer RAM prices have skyrocketed over the last 4 years alone. If you've tried to build a PC or upgrade your laptop lately, you've probably felt this financial hit firsthand. For budget-conscious buyers, and especially for consumers in markets with currency restrictions or crazy import taxes, this effectively doubles the entire cost of building a computer.
Just to put this into perspective, think back to early 2022 compared to what we're dealing with today. A standard 32-gig DDR5 60,000 kit from a brand you actually trust used to set you back maybe $120. Today, you're looking at $850. It's wild, and it gets worse with older tech. You'd think older memory standards would get cheaper as new generations take over, right? Nope. A basic 16-gig stick of DDR4 went from $48 up to $300. This isn't just normal market fluctuation, this is turning a foundational system component into a massive financial roadblock.
Section 1. The Suspects and the AI Alibi.
So, who's behind this? Well, we have to look at the three heavyweights controlling practically the entire market, about 90% of it: Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron Technology. And things are really heating up because on June 25th, 17 American plaintiffs hit these three exact companies with a massive class action lawsuit out in California. The core accusation? That these tech giants deliberately and artificially restricted the supply of standard consumer memory just to inflate prices.
Now, these manufacturers, they have an alibi. They claim this is all just an unavoidable byproduct of the massive industry shift towards high bandwidth memory, or HBM. You know, that incredibly complex, vertically stacked memory that data centers and those heavy-duty AI accelerators are absolutely devouring right now to fuel the current AI boom? The companies say they literally had to restrict consumer RAM just to free up manufacturing capacity for this crucial AI memory.
And sure, HBM is wildly lucrative. We're talking profit margins 5 to 7 times higher than your standard consumer DRAM. But as semiconductor research firms are quick to point out, there is a pretty glaring hole in this excuse. HBM requires totally different, highly advanced manufacturing processes and really complex packaging steps. It's usually done in completely separate facilities or entirely isolated sections of a fab. So shifting over to HBM really shouldn't have inherently tanked the consumer DRAM supply. It just heavily multiplied their profit margins.
Section 2. The evidence against the giants.
So what kind of actual evidence are we looking at in this lawsuit? Honestly, the timeline paints a pretty suspicious picture of coordination. The plaintiffs allege that execs from these three giants had at least 12 private, closed-door meetings at industry conferences between 2022 and 2024. And look at the corporate fallout. In Q3 of 2022, Samsung announces a huge pivot away from standard DRAM. Within literally 2 weeks, both SK Hynix and Micron announced nearly identical strategic shifts. The plaintiffs are arguing that this exact synchronization is how they engineered a 700% price increase by early 2026.
Dr. Jim Handy from Objective Analysis really hit the nail on the head regarding this. The math just doesn't add up. Industry experts point out that actual consumer demand for standard RAM only grew by about 20 to 25% during this whole period. And look, a 25% bump in demand absolutely does not naturally trigger a 700% price spike. The numbers are totally out of whack, making the jump look highly unnatural and heavily manipulated.
Now, we have to be absolutely fair here. This is an active, ongoing legal dispute. The companies involved strongly contest this entire narrative. Micron put out a statement completely denying the allegations, insisting they've always played by the rules and operate in a fully competitive market. Samsung and SK Hynix, well, they have kept pretty quiet publicly, but their legal teams have made it very clear they plan to fight this and try to get the lawsuit tossed out as totally unfounded. But the plaintiffs are arguing that this kind of behavior is practically baked into the memory industry's DNA. Just look at the history here. Back in the early 2000s, US and European regulators went after these exact same companies for price fixing. That led to billions in fines, including a $300 million payout from Samsung in 2005 alone. Then in 2018, China launched a similar antitrust probe. The argument is that this industry just runs in cycles. They claim technical difficulties or sudden demand spikes to limit supply. They ride years of peak pricing, and eventually they face the regulatory backlash.
Section 3. South Korea's massive reaction.
The plot thickens immensely when you see how foreign governments are stepping in. Literally 4 days after this lawsuit dropped, the South Korean government announced a mind-blowing, totally unprecedented defense of its semiconductor industry, a staggering $550 billion emergency investment. Their goal is to try and completely double the nation's memory production capacity. Industry analysts are looking at this sudden announcement and seeing deep panic from the Korean government. If the U.S. courts rule against Samsung and SK Hynix, the resulting penalties could legitimately cripple a fundamental pillar of the entire South Korean economy.
So what exactly does a $500 billion panic plan look like? Well, it means throwing up 4 brand-new memory fabrication facilities and a dedicated HBM packaging center while slashing decades of red tape to get a normal 10-year build time down to under 5 years. But here's the catch for us everyday consumers. Executives have already admitted that the vast majority of this massive new capacity is still going to be laser-focused on next-gen HBM for AI, which means our shortage of standard consumer RAM, it's not ending anytime soon.
Section 4. Gaming Industry Under Threat. All right, let's bring this right back to your wallet and see how these corporate chess moves are actually threatening the gaming ecosystem as we know it. The cost breakdown is just devastating. Building the exact same spec mid-range PC that cost you $1,200 in 2022 is going to run you about $2,150 today. CPU and GPU prices, they've actually stayed relatively stable. It's the memory that's ruining everything. RAM alone is responsible for nearly 77% of that massive price hike. PC gaming on a budget is quite literally becoming a pipe dream.
And hey, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I play on a console, I'm safe, think again. The upcoming generation of consoles, we're talking the PS6 and the next Xbox, are expected to need at least 24 to 32 gigs of unified memory just to run modern titles. With memory prices artificially inflated like this, analysts are warning that these staggering costs could push the retail price of next-gen consoles well over the $900 or even $1,000 mark, which is completely unheard of for the console market.
Section 5. How to survive RAMageddon.
Since relief from these new fabrication plants isn't going to be fully online for years, what is a budget-conscious consumer supposed to do right now? Well, here are a few survival strategies. First off, if you can, stick with the older DDR4 standard. Yes, it's inflated too, but it's still going to save you 30 to 40% compared to DDR5. Second, hit the used market. Getting secondhand memory from a reputable seller that offers a warranty can literally cut your costs in half. Third, just buy the absolute bare minimum RAM you need to get your system booting today, maybe 16 gigs, and just wait it out to upgrade later. Finally, if you've got a killer internet connection, cloud gaming services like GeForce Now or Xbox Cloud Gaming are fantastic ways to totally bypass the need for expensive local memory.
We are definitely going to be watching this California legal battle closely to see how it all unfolds and whether public pressure will actually force this 90% market oligopoly to change its tune. But for now, as we wait for 2027 to see if prices even begin to normalize, I'll leave you with this crucial question to chew on the next time you go to upgrade your system. Are we witnessing the absolute end of affordable computing, or is this just the darkest hour before the market finally corrects itself? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the data, and we will catch you next time.